Conference will now be recorded.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Doug Smith. Alex is here with us as usual. It's 2:30, so it's time for our Monday through Thursday 2:30 podcast. This is a podcast where you will hear the science about what actually happened in this opioid crisis. Uh, we're sending out a whole bunch of emails these days, so if you're not getting emails from us, reach out to us and make sure we have your email address. Uh, my email, just so you know, is DougSmith3727 at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me directly and send me your email address. We'll get you on the list. And we're really looking to begin uh, gathering up a list of people who want to be in the first wave of mass tort lawsuits. That's what we're trying to get going right now. But what we want to talk about today, look on the screen right there. And folks, this stuff is obvious. Okay, science really isn't that hard. Okay, gravity pulls you to the ground. You climb up a ladder and fall off, you're going to the ground. Okay, there's nothing hard about that other than the ground. I guess the ground's pretty hard, but science really isn't all that hard. And this stuff about it's opioid addiction. No, it's genetic poisoning. It's opioid addiction. It's genetic poisoning. It's not that hard, folks. Okay, all you got to do is draw blood when somebody's sick. Okay, that's all you got to do. Okay, you draw blood at the right time when somebody's sick, you're going to get your answer. And that's what's on the screen right there in front of you. Okay, and this is a graphic back before we did our clinical trial. In the clinical trial, we got 15 volunteers. We planned on doing more, but the results were so horrendous, we called it an emergency halt to the study. In our clinical trial, we got volunteers to stop taking their medicine, go into opioid withdrawal, and on day 3, we draw their blood. Okay, we drew their blood on day 3. But you see at the top there on the graphic, you see where it says opioid withdrawal. Okay. And then underneath, you got two choices. Either their blood works normal or their blood works abnormal. Okay. Either they have normal adrenalines, normal catecholamines, or they have elevated adrenalines, elevated catecholamines. Okay. It's one or the other. Okay. And if indeed their blood work is normal, well, that supports this ridiculous brain disease model of addiction. But if their blood work is abnormal, okay, if their adrenaline levels are high, which they were, that supports that this is a dysfunction within the nervous system, a neurotoxicity. Something's gone wrong in the body. Okay, and the point we're trying to make here is, folks, this stuff isn't that hard. Okay, it's not that hard. Okay, you go out to crank your car and it won't crank. Well, either the battery's dead or it's not. Okay, if the battery's dead, well, you know what it is. If the battery's not dead, well, it's something else. Okay, you go out to crank your car and it won't crank. Either the battery's dead or it's not. Okay, you go into opioid withdrawal. Either you got normal adrenalines or you got elevated adrenalines. Okay, it's really no such thing as low adrenalines, just so you know. It doesn't exist. They're either normal or elevated. Okay, which makes our little diagram here pretty easy stuff. Okay, and this is what we're trying to say in the book also. All right, this stuff isn't that hard. Okay, calling out the psychiatrist, calling out the addiction experts, calling out these people that are saying you're an opioid addict, it's not that hard. Okay, draw blood work while you're sick. You'll have the answer. Okay. Now, we don't recommend that because elevated adrenaline levels will kill you. Okay, we think over 4 million have been killed by these elevated adrenaline levels, and that's a lot about what I'm writing about in the book right now. Right now in the book, I'm going through, my view of what happened. Okay, and I take a pretty simple view of the world, so my view of stuff is relatively simple. Okay, I think what happened was driven by money. Okay, I think what happened was in 1994, Johnson & Johnson genetically modified the poppy plant so that it made no morphine and only made thebaine. Okay, morphine was controlled by the international treaties, thebaine wasn't. Okay, and Johnson exploited this loophole in the international treaties and pumped a bunch of Thebaine into the United States. Thebaine is real easy to convert into oxycodone, real easy. That's why we got OxyContin. Okay, Johnson & Johnson suddenly had this warehouse full of a massive quantity of what had been Thebaine and got converted to oxycodone. But now you got to find if you're going to make money, you got to find a place to sell it. That's what Johnson & Johnson does. They sell drugs. Okay, but if you got a bunch of Thebaine, you got a bunch of oxycodone, you got to sell it. And in fact, if you can sell it, you can make money. And in fact, if you can sell it, empty out your warehouse, fill it up again, sell it all, fill up your warehouse again, sell it all, fill up your warehouse again, sell it all. That's how you make a bunch of money. Okay, and so they had to find a customer, and they found the customer in Purdue Pharma, whose product, MS cotton, morphine sulfate cotton, was going off patent, which meant that Purdue was about to lose all their money. Because once you lose your patent, you can't, you can't make any more money. And so they replaced the cotton with OxyContin. They replaced the morphine sulfate with oxycodone, reissued the patent on it, and off to the races. But in order to empty out that warehouse as many times as they can, as fast as they can, okay, the prevailing dosages of oxycodone at the time were 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. You ain't going to empty out a warehouse at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. So in order to empty out the warehouse, it had to be to empty out the warehouse because it wasn't medically necessary. In order to empty out the warehouse, they got the FDA, the psychiatrists of the FDA, to approve OxyContin 10, 20, 40, 80, and 160. Now, you can empty out a warehouse at 40, 80, and 160. Here we go, off to the races. You can empty it out, fill it up again, empty it out, fill it up again. You make a bunch of money with those kinds. Okay, 180 milligrams. That would be the equivalent of 72 tablets of the 2.5. Okay, that's how big this massive jump. And the problem is, you've now aimed a blowtorch right at people's DNA. People can't. This stuff's toxic. This stuff's poisonous. Oxycodone is poisonous. The opioids are poisonous. They cause genetic damage. The opioids cause genetic damage. Oxycodone causes genetic damage. Okay, but the genetic damage was relatively minimal at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. But suddenly at 40, 80, 160 milligrams a dose, massive quantities of oxycodone. You've in essence aimed a blowtorch right at the DNA, and the DNA crumbled in 2, 3, 4 weeks for most people. For a lot of people, their DNA just crumbled. And that's what happened. And that's what drove the opioid crisis. And we go over this in great detail in the book. I'm excited about the book. Finishing it up and getting it over to the editors now. Along those lines, Alex, I'm going to try real hard to get the next 2 chapters into electronic format and over to you today, tomorrow. But we'll hold here for today, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast. Don't forget to post this podcast on your social media and everybody else's social media. If you're not getting an email from us, send us your email address. If you're interested in becoming one of the first in the mass tort lawsuits, reach out to me. Reach out to me and Alex. And we'll hold here for today. Everybody have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much.